So, the Q&A just came out for, I mean, I guess it was for December, right? But the Q&A was just done by One Peg, and he did it with, I believe, SDF and Terrence. I think they were both there. I don't know if they were both talking. Truthfully speaking, I did not watch the Q&A. I can't be asked. I don't like listening to One Peg ask a bunch of useless questions. So what I do, as always, is I just wait for a TLDR to get posted, like you see here. So bad usually follows along, writes a TLDR, you'll post it on Reddit, and then I will go over that after because I just do like I said, I just can't be asked to listen to the whole thing. Most of it's pointless, generally speaking, because it's like a 2 hour, 3 hour thing that they do, where I'd say 2.5 hours of it's just fluff and asking pointless questions that don't matter, or it's the devs talking about things like their legal case and stuff like that, or just stuff that has no actual relevance to the game in my mind. So to start off with, there's stuff you see here on the screen. However, there are two big things. I guess really one big thing, and then one minor thing I want to talk about before that was mentioned in the Q&A that was not addressed in this, in this TLDR here. That I don't know why. So to start off with, SDF and Terrence have said that they do not plan to nerf Cleric. Um, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think this is probably the most ridiculous thing they've ever done. Like, don't get me wrong. I've talked a lot of shit on these devs. Like, I've talked a lot of shit on these devs. However, I think this is quite possibly the worst thing that they have ever decided to do or not to do. And the funniest part is their logic behind it was that Cleric's offensive potential is rather low, so they don't want to take away the one thing they're good at. Now, I don't know if you guys watch much Twitch, play the game yourself. I don't think anybody would call Cleric as a low offense character. Judgment Holy Strike is one of the largest combinations of burst damage that you can do in an instant in this game. If you hit them if they're running at you and you Holy Strike them and Judgment them, you can do about 80% of pretty much every character's health bar in this entire game, barring, a Barbarian. Even Warlock takes a ton of damage because you ignore anti-magic. It's just a ridiculous amount. Then on the melee build, you have Smite Divine Protection. And to say the thing is, like, their damage is not lacking in any capacity. I mean, do they have few damaging spells? Yes. Do they have a low move speed on the melee build? Yes. However, that is not an issue with their offense. Their damage is absolutely there. You've seen this on numerous instances. Solar Bear loves the melee build. Smite DP plays it all the time. It's not particularly good in Arena, but that's different. Outside of Arena, he plays that all the time. Then the caster build, Holy Strike, Judgment, Utoast, who's like I think probably like the leader in this build, the biggest person. He plays almost primarily solos, and he plays this build to very very great effect. But the point is, Cleric having a weak offensive potential is laughable at best, and their logic to not nerfing healing Cleric is to say oh, well, we don't want to take away the one thing that they're good at. Well, that's not the only thing they're good at. They're good at a lot of things. Healing is just a thing they're the literal best at. And then their logic behind it is, oh, we just want to buff other characters up. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but that doesn't work. Because if you have two damage characters, right? If you have like a ranger and a wizard, and you're like, oh, ranger's really really strong, so we want to buff the other damage classes up to do a similar amount of damage. That's fine. But if you have, like Barbarian and Cleric, it's like, oh, Cleric's really, really strong. We want to buff Barbarian up to be where Cleric is. You can buff Barbarian as much as you want. Barbarian's never going to heal his teammates for their full health bar. It's just different levels of strength, right? Or like a melee class to a range class. They're just different areas. It's like, so you can buff all these other classes as much as you want. They are never going to do what Cleric does. Even Druid, healing Druid, you can buff the healing on that. It is not a Cleric. It doesn't do what Cleric does. You can make the healing over time really, really good, but it's still healing over time. Cleric is burst healing, which is the issue with it. That is why Cleric is so strong, because it's just an instant burst of healing you can't do anything about. And but yeah, I I can't believe that they would say, like, to me. And one more thing, I guess there's technically three things I was going to mention. Another thing is they said that Ranger is only a little strong, which is, I mean, once again, laughable. Rangers can two-shot almost any character in the game with a longbow from across a module, so I mean that's cool. They have spear backstep, they have shotgun. I mean, and you call them a little strong, and like this is just, it's disappointing for me because this just kind of like confirms everything everybody's ever said about them. They just don't play their game, and if they do, they don't play it enough to see the issues. Because if you expect us to go another wipe without nerfing Cleric, or you don't nerf Ranger or whatever else because they are the level of strength you want them to be, then at the end of the day, you guys are failures of game devs. If you are listening to this, I doubt you are. SDF, Terrence, Grayson, I don't care. Anybody that works in the Iron Mace development team, if you think these characters at the appropriate level of strength or that you should not nerf them, you are a failure of a game dev and you do not deserve your job. End of story. But that could be a whole different video in terms of how strong Cleric is, and I probably will make that. But moving on. Also, one more thing I think a lot of people are gonna, probably be up in arms about is they said they don't think Demon's Glee Fighter is a problem, and they don't have any intentions on nerfing that as well. I mean, I'm kind of like, my opinion on this is definitely the minority. I don't think it's broken. With that being said, I would be perfectly fine with it being nerfed. I'd be fine with Weapon Mastery being removed in total because I don't like the way the build plays fundamentally. It's very, very similar to the Rondell Buckler build where it's literally just a hold W key and hold left click build, and you either kill somebody or they kill you. That is the build. I don't like builds like that. I don't like builds that take away any form of skill of the game and it's just, I'm just going to left click you and that's all I'm going to do. I don't think that's fun. But other than that, just going to get into the Q&A now. Just wanted to mention those couple things because those were, I think, very, very major points that were mentioned that are not in this Q&A. So, like I said, getting into it. So to start off with, the continuous dungeon. The continuous dungeon, how it's going to be, as you say it, players can spawn into a dungeon already in progress, and they will run tests around the clock when they appear/spawn. That's them deciding when the players are going to appear or spawn. And the exit blue gates and the red gates will now be open immediately, and you can move around the dungeon whenever you want. So basically, you can spawn in and you can immediately leave. This is interesting to me. It's really interesting. I have a couple major issues with this, like a couple really, really big ones. So based on what One Peg said, was that so these maps, like, I'm sure you guys could think Tarkov or whatever, or the Cycle Frontier or any of those games where it's like, okay, you have this big map and it's open for like an hour at a time and you can drop in and out. They're not changing how long the games last. The games are still going to be the exact same length of time. It's only going to be like 13 minutes per round. So I don't, and I don't think mobs are going to be respawning either. So this doesn't really make sense to me. Um, I can't imagine like I would want to spawn in halfway through a map and just be like, okay, well, I spawned in, everything's cleared, everything's looted. I guess I have to go down or I guess I have to leave. And I do think that's going to be a lot of it. It's just people are going to spawn in. Like, imagine you're trying to quest, right? Imagine you're trying to quest on the first floor and you keep spawning in into lobbies that are already like, halfway over and everything's already killed. The things you need to kill are already gone. Or like the bosses are already gone or whatever, because that's what's going to be happening a lot. And that's just not going to feel good. Or imagine, maybe you're in the middle of doing something, like you cleared a bunch of these modules, you're doing something now, and people spawn in later. And they spawn in, in an area that you already cleared, and now you have people coming in behind you from the area that you've already checked. Like, that's not going to feel good. Problem is, and with the map as small as it is, that is definitely going to happen. It's going to happen probably often, especially on a map like Ruins. So you're just always going to have to play, like, super, like, terrified, and I don't like the idea of like this dungeon, right? I don't think this is good. I think the best way to do this is just make it when people go from ruins to crypts, you just re-queue. I think that's still going to be a thing, but I just don't understand the logic of queuing into a dungeon at any point in time and it just throws you in there, right? I don't like that. I think that's stupid. Um, Also, whenever they said when they go to this continuous dungeon, the map rotation will be gone. You'll no longer have to wait for your queue. You just pick the map and you go into it. It either starts a new one or you get people will join right away. That I think this is another big thing too, of just like bossing, specifically on like a Goblin Caves map or something. Like imagine you go into boss and you join in, you run all the way there, and the boss is already dead. Like, and then like okay, cool, I just leave now and I have to try again. And like I said, I imagine that's gonna be a lot of what it is like, a lot of it. And there will be the removal of expressmen along with this, which kind of just makes sense. It just does. You can leave at any time and you can go back in at any time, so you don't really need it as much. So yeah. Also, there will be Fog of War. You only uncover the map as you progress in the dungeon. Uh, this is weird to me. I don't I don't understand why you would do this, right? Like this just goes back to making the game tedious and of not having the map. Of like, okay, where do I want, like, okay, where are the blues at? Where's the red at? I pull up my map and I look. Like, I could easily just tab out, go on Google and pull up the interactive map and look at it that way. Or, I just remember it. I shouldn't have to explore it to discover it. This is just making the game harder for people that don't know the maps, i.e. new players, for no real reason in my mind. It's a weird, unnecessary. So outside of the continuous dungeon, they will be testing randomized modules. They're currently trying to get the Forgotten Castle level 2 crypts randomized first. So with this, Fog of War makes a little bit more sense, right? But still, I don't like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, I don't love it. The problem with this is that I mentioned before, in like a previous video, is if you want to do randomized modules and you don't have a map, even if you do have a map, you have to randomize them around anchor points on the map. And what I mean by that is you have to have certain modules that are always in the same spot, specifically for like red portals and blue portals. Because realistically, you could have a situation where you end up and every single red and blue portal is on the exact same side of the map. Is it going to happen often? No, but it will happen. And when you get in those games where it's going to happen, you're just gonna have to you're gonna have to try to everybody's gonna be on one side of the map trying to leave, trying to go go down, whatever, and it's just gonna be really really like stupid. It's just not going to be good. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. I don't love it, don't hate it. I'm gonna see how it plays out. So onto Arena. The Arena needs polishing, but it's 80% to where they want it. More maps, better MMR, and ranking systems. Um, ah, 80% is a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean a whole lot generous. I would say Arena is probably about 40% to where it should be. I don't think they need more maps per se. I think they need to remove a lot of the maps they currently have. If you want to make Arena like a legitimate game mode, you make maps for it. Better or bare minimum, you put more thought into the maps you have. It's no secret the current maps on Arena are dog shit for pretty much everything except range characters. There are numerous amounts of maps that you spawn, you walk out, and you're like, okay, I lose. Like, you see the enemy comp on the map you're on, and you are like, I just lost. The Crypts module with the Wraith and the stairs that go up to the top, and you have that one bottom spot with the mummies where you have to try to walk through the choke. That is one of the worst maps in the game. You fight a Cleric with Earthquake or Wizards or Rangers. Then you have the X Room, another horrible map to fight Rangers. Goblin Prison, horrible map to fight Rangers. There are just a bunch of really, really bad maps. You need to remove some of them. There are a reason a lot of these maps were just like, or there are a reason a lot of these modules no one goes to, and if they do go there, they never fight in these modules. You just don't do it because it's almost impossible. And when you put a team in Arena and their only choice is to fight there, you know, you want to make the maps as balanced as possible. You don't want to put them in a spot where they are forced to fight a losing battle. It's just not good. It doesn't feel good. You feel like you're wasting your time, and you feel like you're just being trolled. SDF is considering 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3 arena brackets. No, horrible idea. Stupid. This is the exact same stupid thing that got us in one of the major issues of this game. Too many queues. You don't want to add this, man. This is stupid. Do not do this. This is really, really stupid. Just don't do it. You are going to, you're then going to make your arena divided up into even more brackets, so that's another 2 different queues you're going to split your player base between. It's just dumb. 1v1 fundamentally is stupid, I think, because there are some matchups that are just going to feel like shit. Like, imagine you queue up 1v1 and it's a really fast warlock and you're a fighter. You just lose the game, right? Like, that's just it. You know? And then the obvious point of like some characters just not being very good in it. In 1v1s in particular, you can't play to your advantages. Rogues, you can't really make use of hide that well in a certain areas because generally speaking, they're going to know where you're at. They're going to walk out and they're just kind of going to stare at you until you walk out and like reveal yourself. And if you don't, then you're just going to lose to someone, right? It's just 1v1 arena is horrible. 2v2 I could kind of get behind, but I don't think you should add anything other than 3v3 because if you add 2v2, they will make you add 1v1. That is how the players will be. Should not do it. New map. Water World that involves a new swimming mechanic. This mechanic will work in other dungeons as well, not available at Wipe. So, I mean, this makes a little bit more sense with how they're changing. Because I've mentioned this before, they're going to have to get rid of map rotation as they add new maps. The downside of this is if you add too many maps, you are splitting your player base. Each new map that is added, that is another 3 queues that is open at any given time. So if they add this, we will have 12 queues open every single, like at all points in time. And it's horrible, right? It's horrible. Like, what are you gonna do? Actually, yeah. Is it 12 that's open? Oh shit! Wait, hold on. I didn't even think of that. So, huh. So this right here, when we change to continuous dungeon, the map partition will be gone. You no longer have to wait for Ice/Forgotten Castle Goblins. Pick your map. If there's an empty spot on the map in progress, you get queued spawned right away. If no spots are available or enough people are in the queue, we'll try and create a new map for you all. So, this completely, blew past me. They're getting rid of map rotation, so that does not mean we only have 9 queues available. That means we have 27 queues available, because you can queue solo, duo, or trio. Or, wait, 27? 18. 18. Wait, no, hold on. Wait, hold on. Am I stupid? Solo, duo, trio, solo, duo, trio. Yeah, 18. Sorry, 18. 18 because normal's NHR. So you have solo duo trio caves, solo duo trio ice or goblin caves, solo duo trio ice caves, solo duo trio crypts. Then you have, I mean, I guess if you count the gear brackets, right? Because you have two gear brackets for norms, so that's 12. Two gear brackets for HR, that's 24. So technically speaking, you have 72 potential queues that are open at any given time. I think, right? Because normally it's just there's what like solo duo trio for one, solo duo trio, norms HR, four different queues. Yeah, yeah. So there will be 72 queues open per server with this, counting the gear brackets of the different gear bracket queues. I mean, I mean, like, what do you say about that, man? Like, that is just surely that's not good, guys. Surely we shouldn't be doing this. Like, I'm not the best, mathematician out here, but surely these devs could do this very, very simple number crunching and realize you are going to have 72 open queues for your game. When you add the water world, you are going to have 96 per server. Then you have 8 servers. Hold on, let me run the numbers really quick. Pull up my calculator. How many? I think there's like what? Like there's like I think it's like 96 times 8 because I think there's 8 servers. Oh, guys, well that's cool. We're only gonna have 768 potential queues across every single server. I mean, what? Now, if my math is wrong, somebody feel free to correct me, but I don't think it is. That sounds correct. Maybe I'm being really stupid right now. There's a reason I didn't major in anything that related to math in college, but um, yeah, I mean that's cool, I guess. Cool. One a map for everybody. So, new class, Sorcerer, available day 1 of December 18th wipe. Sorcerer is based around casting spells that have individual cooldowns, and there will be a new character slot for it. So, supposedly, we're getting it day 1. I will not believe that until day 1 is here and it is out, because I don't believe them on anything, because they are all rats. Other than that, cooldown spells will be really, really cool, I think. This makes me wonder if it will have a traditional spell will, the same way current characters do, because I think it's possible. But I think this is maybe instead of this being like a sorcerer unique thing, maybe this is like their idea of, testing to eventually remove the spell charge system and add in cooldowns, which I think is just fundamentally way better than how the game currently works. Being able to spam a bunch of spells over and over and over isn't fun for the people you're fighting. It also allows you to use more spells. Most people run 10 spell, like Wizard or Cleric, for example, and they cast Fireball, 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 Zap, Zap, Zap before they've ever touched another spell. Or, Lesser Heal, Lesser Heal, Lesser Heal, Holy Light, Holy Light, Holy Light. They haven't touched another spell. And if you have cooldowns, you can't do that, obviously. It also allows you to, it also would, give Cleric a lot more counterplay. Rather than actually, if they don't want to hard nerf it, then you give Cleric cooldowns so they can't spam their heals. Other than that, we have socketing. It will be available day 1 of December 18th wipe. It can overwrite random modifiers that were rolled on gear. Use rarity gems as socket item. For example, a rare ruby into a socket might be +2 agility. It will likely be a static amount per rarity rather than a range such as +2 to 4 agility. A secondary market created around gems to help achieve best in slot faster and create your own statted gear. So they've mentioned this for a long time, nothing unusual here. Very reminiscent of like a Diablo or Path of Exile style thing where you put a socket into your item and it gets more stats, which I think is actually more Diablo than Path of Exile. Uh, Path of Exile, you socket in like skills and shit. But that's, yeah, But you socket items into your gear and you overwrite the stats that were on them, which is interesting. That's not exactly how I imagined it. So my wonder here is, are you going to be able to put an unlimited amount of sockets on an item, or is there going to be as many gem sockets as there are rolls, or is each item only going to have one socket, right? So like if I get a legendary item, will I be able to put in 4 gems and build the item myself? Right? Because if so, that's interesting. Also, will you be able to remove sockets from an item? Like let's say I kill a player, they have a bunch of socketed gear. Can I take the sockets out of their item? How will it says a secondary market recruited around gems. So can you sell like socketed items? Will they be like soulbound effectively? Or obviously you'll be able to trade them, but like will they be like sellable in the market? How will it work? Right? It's interesting. I'm really curious about that. But I'm excited for this. I think this is a cool new system. It adds a little bit more depth to the game, and allowing you to make your own gear is obviously going to be fun. I think especially for Arena, if they keep Arena the way they currently have it, or even if they don't, You craft the piece of gear and then you socket items into it. I think that could be really cool. Allows you to get really good gear way easier, and I think that'll actually be like really fun. So moving on, a card game for Dark and Darker. Let's have elements from Slay the Spire slash Gwent. See, now this is weird to me because Slay the Spire and Gwent, to my knowledge, are entirely different games. Slay the Spire is like a roguelite game. It's not about beating another player. Like, it's not like a Yu-Gi-Oh style game, right? Where you're fighting at somebody else as a deck of cards. You're fighting, randomized encounters with the intention of getting to the boss and beating them. So I don't know how you're going to combine those two, but should be interesting. STF is very excited about this. Says it might be a long time coming, but is determined to bring it into our game as something social to play inside of something like the tavern. All I know is, I mean, if it's more like Slay the Spire, yeah, people will like it, but who knows? And then lastly, you can't see it here on the screen, but it is there. The rank season will start a few weeks after the wipe of December 18th, which is pretty expected. The rank season almost never starts right away. Usually it's 2 to 3 weeks out. But yeah, that ends it up for the Q&A. This is what I mean though. It's like this is like, bro, this is all we got after like a 3-hour Q&A, and most of this stuff isn't even like new, right? Like this stuff here, the continuous dungeon, like that's all like pretty new stuff. The arena stuff, this is like basically nothing. It's like, oh, they were considering 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3. Needs polishing, but it's not where they want it. But they need all of these things that everybody knows they need. This is literally nothing. All we heard, okay, new map that has a swimming mechanic. We already know about this. This is not new. This is something we've already heard about. The name, I guess, cool. Whatever. Sorcerer. I mean, this is the individual cooldowns. Cool. That's like new that we learned. I guess that's something new. Other than this, nothing really. Socketing. We've already heard a lot about this. This is kind of just threshing it out, fleshing out a tiny bit more. Also, it's a little bit more specific, but we already knew mostly about this. In the card game, that's new. But this is my problem. This is why I don't like their Q&As, because they don't tell us anything. We know, like, I mean, they did a Q&A, and I mean, yeah, like I said, this up here, this is like pretty much the only like new stuff that we learned, right? And it's not that much, in my opinion, for a 2-3 hour Q&A. I mean, oh shit, I dropped my cap. Darn. That surprised me. It fell. 1 second. All right, we're good. But this is like I was saying. I don't know if it's one peg. I don't know if cause I'm sure before they did it, they gave him guidelines and like, hey, don't ask us about this. This is all we're gonna talk about. So like, there's a limit to what he can do. But in my mind, you basically never communicate with your community, and then you come on for a Q&A, once or twice a wipe. You give us hardly anything, and you have stupid takes like cleric doesn't need to be nerfed. Its melee or its combat is strong, or its combat is weak, so that's why we're not nerfing it. And I mean, whatever. But that's just me nitpicking everything. I'm bitter that they're not going to nerf cleric, and I'm going to have to deal with that bullshit for another wipe. But that's probably going to be another video. I will make one shortly after this one, going over things I think that just kind of need to be fixed in the game. Cleric is going to be a big one, but yeah, that's going to wrap it up for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the Q&A, and as always, please leave comments and everything down below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.